Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking the deep history and the constantly shifting geography of a truly fascinating region, the Kalaburagi division. We've got this rich, complex tapestry of ancient kingdoms, modern redistricting, and some really fierce local rebellions waiting for us. So let's just jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap to guide us through the spatial and temporal loop. First up, today's Kalaburagi division. 2. The rise of new districts. 3. Footprints of ancient empires. 4. Glory of medieval capitals. And finally, number 5, rebellion and Karnataka integration.
Section 1. Today's Kalaburagi division. Now, you might be wondering about the borders. Well, that brings us to the number 7. While it actually might surprise folks who are used to looking at older maps of the region, the modern Kalaburagi Administrative Division is currently made up of exactly 7 distinct districts. Those 7 are Kalaburagi, Badar, Ballari, Vijayanagara, Raichur, Kopal, and Yadgir. But, here's what makes this whole map so interesting. It definitely didn't always look like this. Originally, this entire administrative division started out with just 4 base districts. Section 2. Rise of new districts. Geography is never truly static, right? Look at this timeline. In 1997, the Raichur district was split to form the Kopal district. Fast forward a bit to December 31st, 2009, and the namesake district of Kalaburagi itself was divided to create Yadgir. And literally just a few years ago, highlighting how incredibly recent some of these major border changes really are, on October 2nd, 2021, Ballari was split, bringing the brand new Vijayanagara district into existence. Section 3. Footprints of ancient empires. Let's move to Ilaria and see how this builds. So, these newly carved districts we just talked about, they actually sit on incredibly ancient soil. Going way, way back to the dawn of its recorded history, this vast region fell under the rule of 2 of India's absolute powerhouses, the Mauryan and the Satavahana empires. And we know this for a fact because of the physical evidence they left behind. Specifically, if you look at the archaeological site called Sanachi, you'll find these beautiful ancient Buddhist stupas and rock edicts perfectly preserved. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what else they found at Sanati. It boasts a rare, and I mean very rare, portrait sculpture of Emperor Ashoka himself. Sitting right alongside those rock edicts, this spectacular piece of history firmly highlights Ashoka's massive footprint deep down in this part of the subcontinent. It's an absolute game changer for understanding his reach. Section 4. Glory of medieval capitals. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Over the centuries, this specific area functioned as the beating heart for several distinct, mighty dynasties. It was like a magnet for power. Back in the 8th century, the Rashtrakutas set up their capital at Manyakeda, which is modern-day Malkhed, right in the Kalaburagi district. Later on, the Kalyana Chalukyas ruled from Basava Kalyana. Then you've got the legendary Vijayanagara Empire commanding the region from Hampi. And of course, the Bahmani kings who made Kalaburagi itself their capital. It's just wild to think about the immense concentration of imperial power anchored in these very local cities over the centuries. But hold on, we shouldn't just think of this region in terms of kings, castles, and armies. Basava Kalyana wasn't just a seat of political power for the Kalyana Chalukyas. It was actually the epicenter of a profound cultural and social awakening called the Vajna movement. Led by the highly famous philosopher and social reformer Basavana, this movement completely transformed the cultural landscape. It proves that this division was absolutely just as much a hub for revolutionary, groundbreaking ideas as it was for ruling empires. But, as we know from history, no empire lasts forever, right? Which brings us to a really pivotal question to reset our historical timeline here. So, what exactly happened after the fall of these great empires? After the mighty Bahmani and Vijayanagara kingdoms collapsed, this massive power vacuum opened up. Section 5. Rebellion and Karnataka integration. Well, in the wake of those falling medieval empires, local leaders boldly stepped up to fill that void. Independent Palagigaras, or local chieftains, emerged all across the region, asserting their own autonomy. Some of the most famous and powerful of these Palagigaras took control in places like Harapanahali, Jarimali, Sundaru, and Surapura. They fiercely protected their localized territories, basically becoming independent rulers in their own right. But, as you can probably guess, the era of these independent chieftains was on a complete collision course with a brand new superpower, the British.
Let's trace the fascinating mini-arc of the Surapora chieftaincy for a second. First, following the death of Krishnapa Nayaka, his son Venkatappa Nayaka takes power in Surapora. Second, deeply inspired by the First War of Independence, he makes the bold decision to fight back against the creeping British influence. Third, despite his immense bravery, the British ultimately capture and imprison him. And fourth, the British effectively gift the territory of Surapora directly to the Hyderabad Nizam. Because of this exact chain of events, major districts like Badar, Kalaburagi, and Raichur ended up falling firmly under the Nizam's control. So, the crucial point here is how this whole colonial chessboard finally rearranged itself into the modern state of Karnataka. By 1948, the Grand Hyderabad state finally merged into the newly formed Indian Republic. Then, following the state's reorganization commission in 1956, the districts of Kalaburagi, Bidar, and Raichur, which, remember, were previously under the Nizam, were formally merged into Karnataka, right alongside the undivided Bellary district. Post-1956, Kalaburagi was officially established as the primary divisional center. And just like that, our historical loop perfectly brings our story back to the modern, 7-district map we started with at the beginning of our explainer.
Borders are redrawn over decades, but history? History is etched in stone forever. From Ashoka's ancient edicts at Sanati to the dramatic, fiery rebellion of Venkatappa Nayaka, this land has truly seen it all. The lines on a map may change, but the soil always remembers. It kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other ancient secrets might these newly formed districts hold just beneath the surface? Thanks for exploring the rich history of the Kalaburagi division with me today, and hey, never stop learning.